Hello, and welcome to the Experience Local with Russ and Scott. Each week, they bring you conversations with local Christian businesses and business owners. Join in every Monday live at 9 a.m. Pacific on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. Catch the audio on KWIL 790 AM Monday evenings at 6 p.m. The Experience Local is brought to you each week by wonderful sponsors.
Southpaw's Pizza and Sports Bar, 560 Northwest Hickory Street in Albany. southpawspizza.com. Independent Merchant Brokers, low-cost and no-cost debit and credit card processing. 877-460-4747. independentmerchantbrokers.com. Bosun Hub. Since 2012, Bosun Hub has built over 350 websites and many ad campaigns. bosunhub.com. Adams Rib Smokehouse, 210 State Street in Salem. 503-362-2194. adamsribsmokehouse.com.
And now, your hosts for the Experience Local, Russ and Scott.
Ta-da! Here
And
we
Scott.
are. It is the Experience Local live with Russ and Scott. There he is. Yes. And I'm so excited to be here. Happy Monday, everybody. It's going to be an amazing, amazing week. Scott, you know that I am a Monday guy. I love the start to a new week.
It's not that I dislike weekends and holidays, but they do get in the way of a lot of fun things that we get to do.
Yes, and every Monday being with you is amazing. And I love this whole new vibe that we get to do with the experience and put it the Experience Local. And you know, what's amazing about this, as it said on the intro, not only are we live streaming on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, but we are also broadcasting on KWIL Live, and it's promoted on Hope 107. So what an amazing thing we get to do to bring this local community together.
Yeah, but there's a danger to it because every Monday morning, for 3 Monday mornings now, I get hungry. and I'm thinking we need some barbecue today because in the Northwest, for some reason, there's just not a lot of barbecue places. But when you find one, stick with it.
Well, it's an amazing place. Adams Rib and Smokehouse, who's not only a sponsor of the show. Thank you so much, Mike Adams and Adams Rib and Smokehouse. But we have Mike as a guest on today. So we're going to talk to him in just 1 second. But I want to just tell all you how amazing it is to come together with people like Mike. Years ago when I did radio advertising, speaking of radio, and I broadcast commercials right after "Hi, this is Russ," my commercial came Mike Adams with Adams Rib and Smokehouse. And I knew him from way back in the day from his radio commercials. And that is the power of radio and all that we do. So, Scott, I think we should just get this party started and bring Mike in.
Absolutely. Let's have some fun.
Do it. Let's have some fun. Hey, Mike.
Good morning.
So good to see you.
Beautiful morning it is.
And Mike, give us a little verbal description for all those folks on the radio of what we're looking at, because you have a beautiful backdrop.
You're looking at my blessing from God. About 6 years ago, we bought this property, and behind me was all berry vines. And I'm sitting. You can kind of see my other side, the shelter I'm sitting under. This is we call it the picnic shelter. And it again was just berry vines as high as you see. It was a neglected property out towards Almsville, and we shouldn't have been able to buy it, but we were totally blessed by it, and now it's become my happy place. Sometimes I say, just sitting on a lawnmower behind me, and it takes 2 hours to mow the lawn, and it's just a cool place. We call it Adams Acres.
Ah, that is so beautiful, Mike. I tell you, I like you. I love mowing the lawn. It just relaxes me. And especially if a nice riding lawnmower there, that would be just beautiful to go round and round. And the Northwest is such a beautiful place. But hey, why don't we start with who is Mike Adams really? Let's back up and tell everybody, who's Mike Adams and what are you up to?
Well, I'll be real quick. I was raised in Southern California for most of my all my young years. Um, Grew up with a dad who went to work every day. We had a house, we had the essentials, but we didn't ever have anything extra. My dad was a very modest man. My mom stayed at home and took care of the kids. It was a classic, 60s, 50s, 60s before it all went haywire in the 70s. But my mom was always home for us. My dad always came home about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and um, he just he didn't make a lot of money, but he took care of us, our needs and everything. And growing up, there's stories of running around barefoot because we didn't want to ruin our shoes because we only got them twice a year when school started, and then we'd get another pair usually around Christmas, and those shoes had to last us all year, as well as our clothes. I wore hand-me-down clothes because I had two older brothers, and then cousins on top of that, and so everybody would pass their clothes on down by the time they got to me, and then my little brother, usually he got new clothes because by the time they got through me, they were about done. So very modest upbringing. Um, and so I always tried to do more so that I wouldn't have that, so I would have a little better. You know what I'm saying? I started my first business, I guess, when I was 10 years old, pushing a lawnmower around the neighborhood, which a lot of us did back then. But at 19, I started my first company. It was a landscape company, and I did that for probably all off and on. I did that for probably 20 years, and then I sold that company and started Adams Rib. And that was Adams Rib started in a food truck in 1998, and I still had the landscape company until 2000. And then that's when I sold that company in 2003. We started at a brick and mortar restaurant, and we originally started on Market Street. And real quick, I had a vision. I was prayed over in church by my wife's prayer ladies. It was a night of prayer at Morning Star Church, and they all laid hands on me because I was in a bad place. My dad had passed away a few years earlier, and he and I were really close, and I was losing it. I ended up going bankrupt, and coming out of it, well, I was paying off everything. I opened Adam's Rib, so it was totally a God story. Our first slogan, it's still kind of our slogan, is Genesis 2:21. God put Adam into a deep sleep and pulled out his rib and created Eve. So on the sixth day, God created ribs, and that was kind of our first slogan. And now we still have that, but we have another one that we started this year, Faith Family Barbecue, and everything is attributed to God. I whenever I speak anywhere, whenever anybody asks me how did I get to where I am, I attribute everything to God because when you follow yourself, um, generally it's destined to fail if you don't put God first. And that's what
Well,
happened in my landscape company. And so we started the restaurant. I said, God is going to be first, and we're not going to go down that other path again.
well, I'll just remind everybody that we are talking with Mike Adams, Adams Rib Smokehouse, and my family has enjoyed, and I and my family have enjoyed the food and the atmosphere of your restaurant for many years. And my son loves the barbecue sauce because he can play the home version.
The home version. What is the home version?
Well, cook some meat at home and still be able to use that.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, you can get our sauces. That's right.
Absolutely.
We sell the four of the sauces we have in the restaurant. We sell at Roth's, all the Roth's markets, and South Salem Ace Hardware and Easy Orchards. So we're in a few places. We're not huge on the retail part, but it's afforded us I guess, to get our name out there by having those sauces in the grocery stores. And like you said, it gives you the ability to make a similar product at home, and you can have that same flavor.
Yeah. Well, you know what I love about you is you didn't stop at that. You've done so many things, but you expanded and you have more than just Adams Ribbon Smokehouse now, don't you, Mike?
Yeah, we do. Another fun story when before Bowen Vine, the Salem Association of Realtors had this food truck called Dad's Burgers, and they had nobody to run it. They didn't know what they were doing. They meant well, but they weren't making a profit, so they parked it in a barn. And I found out about it, and I approached them and said, "Hey, I want to run this for you, and I'll give you 10% of the gross. Just let me do it. I have an idea in my head, a concept." And so we made a deal with them, and so we paid them 10% of the gross for probably 3 years. I can't remember what our total amount. We probably paid them $20,000 over 3 years, and all that money went to their children's fund, which was so they could put on a Christmas party for kids. And so, anyways, that's a guy approached my son when he was working. I told my son Matt, my youngest son, develop it, figure out the burgers. He did all that. And then a guy approached him and said, "Hey, I want to own a restaurant. I like your concept. I have a bunch of guys that want to invest." And so I told my son he could have it. And then the guy came back, and all the other people that were going to invest had walked away. And so they came to me, and that's how Bowen Vine started. So the Bowen Vine Burger Bar started in a food truck as the paddy wagon. And that one has grown exponentially over the last 8 years. We within we opened the Salem restaurant. Then within I think 2 years we opened Corvallis, and then 3 years we opened uh, Eugene. So that one actually probably 4 years. Anyways, that one opened the day COVID shut everything down. So Eugene has been a struggle because when we opened it, we had to shut everything down. So all we could do was to go orders. But again, God has blessed us because we were able to transition with all the restaurants into a to-go service really easily. And that's so then Bowen Vine has been around about 8 years. We're building another one in Salem. Um, that's why I'm dressed kind of like a contractor instead of a pit master. But that's my favorite thing to do is develop these things and going back to why we've done it. Um, I wanted to provide something to our community, not just so that I could have an income for my family, but so I could provide jobs to other people. And I don't even know how many employees we have between all the restaurants. I have well over 100 employees, and just out of Adam's Rib, we have probably 5 families that rely on us to provide their income. And Bowen Vine, with 3 restaurants, we hire a lot of young people, so we aren't necessarily supporting a bunch of families, but we're supporting a lot of people, and we're we're charged with making sure it works. And we another story we currently this last year we bought another restaurant that was up for sale, and it's Cozy's New York Deli, and they were going to close it, and I saw 4 guys that were going to be out of a job, and not just because I wanted a deli all my life, but I saw a need on a place that was probably the best sandwich shop in town. And so we made a deal and we purchased that, and we're growing that business now as well. And I attribute the whole thing to our Savior. It's not me. I'm not a smart guy. I barely graduated high school. I had learning disabilities. I was dyslexic. Um, Clearly, I'm a little bit hyper, and so I could never sit still in class. I got in trouble a lot in class because because of my dyslexia, I have to read back to myself multiple times when there's a question, and I have to read it to myself so I can audibly hear it and come up with the answer. Uh, so I got in trouble a lot in school because according to the teacher, I was talking, but in reality, I was reading to myself to figure out what the question was. But um, those are all things that my son has the same disability, and and my grandson, but these are things that God puts in our path to grow us and make us stronger. And some people take it the other way, and oh, why me? Why me? And it's like, why not me? Um,
Right.
that's that's what's made me who I am and what I am.
Yeah. Scott?
Yeah, just remind everybody, it's Mike Adams here on the Experience Local, live with Russ and Scott. And we're talking about faith and family and business. And Mike, that's one of the things that you've done. So I love that you've created jobs for people, that you're supporting families. That's a huge responsibility, by the way. And so I just want to thank you for taking up that, which has been put in your path by God, as you've said. Talk about how you've integrated your family with the business and your faith.
Well, it's funny, all my kids, well, and I did too. I was raised Catholic. Um, I now go to evangelical churches, but um, that's my preference. It's where I feel comfortable, where God's led me, and where
Mhm.
I've raised all my kids. I've been involved in church leadership for probably 20 years or more. Um, I My kids have seen that. They've been tagged along. Before I had the restaurant, when I still had the landscape company, I took I would take weeks at a time off to go cook at youth camps. So I was the guy who put together the teams and ordered all the food and cooked all the, had the teams cooking all the food, and we would cook for 300-400 kids in the summertime at the big camps, and we would cook the winter camps, and we would cook the high school, junior high, college age, men's retreats, and so a lot of involvement. And my kids, we drug them along the whole time, and it was my wife and I did it as a team. And so the kids were always there growing up in the church. And when we started the restaurant, they were all the two older ones were my daughter was just starting high school, and my oldest boy was I think he was a sophomore, and they would come in after school and work in the restaurant. My youngest son Matt, who is part owner in Bowenvine with me, he was probably 6 or 7 years old when we started the restaurant. So he has some fun stories of climbing up on top of the walk-in cooler and staring down into the kitchen and stuff like that. But that gave him the ability at a young age to start learning that stuff. So when I say he knows more than most 40-year-old men, and he's going to be 31, so I have to start bumping that age up now. But they all left at some point to do their own thing and realized the opportunity they had staying with the family business, because they got to be in charge. They got to make decisions, what directions the restaurants are going. Um, when we started a new company, Adams Hernandez Investing, last year when we bought Cozy's Deli. And so we put that and Adams Rib as under that uh, corporate, group. And it gives them that control. And because I'm not going to be around forever. I mean, I plan on living to 103, because that's what Jiminy Cricket says he wants me to do. So remember that one? And the end of the
Yes.
Disney movies, Jiminy Cricket was,
Yep.
I'm no fool. I'm going to live to be 103. So I joke with him about that. That I'm not dying anytime soon. But I've stepped back from the operations, and
Right.
my oldest boy runs Adams Ribs restaurant. My son-in-law Omar runs. That's where the Hernandez comes in on the Adams Hernandez Investing. He runs all the catering operation in the warehouse. My wife does all the bookkeeping. Uh, my Matt runs all the Bowenvine restaurants. I technically am the manager of Cozy's Deli, even though building the new Bowenvine, I'm not in the deli that often right now. But that was bought because I wanted it, and it was a project. And yeah, so yeah, so the kids are all involved. They do the bulk of the work. I do things like I'm doing right now. I'm the
Right.
I just go around and talk to people. That's what I do
Well,
best now.
you're the face of the business. People know Mike, and I love it that you're so involved with the community and you're so involved doing things. It's so important to integrate the faith in our family and all of that together. It is such a blessing to be able to do that. But you have really integrated also the community. Really feels like they are part of all that you're doing, Mike. And I think that's amazing. When did you realize how important the community was to you, not only in your faith, but with your business?
Yeah, it's funny because believe it or not, I was terminally shy growing up as a kid. There's not a lot of pictures of me because I'd go hide behind the couch if they were taking pictures, and I didn't like to speak in front of people because I had a speech problem. I couldn't say my R's. They were my grandson. One of my grandsons has the same speech problem. It doesn't bother him as much as it bothered me, but I was in a special needs class and to learn how to speak properly. And so I was teased a lot as a kid. One, because I had that speech problem. I wore glasses. I was picked on terribly because of those things, and I wore old clothes. And I have a vest that my mom made out of uh, upholstery material. My uncle was an upholsterer, and he would give her these books of fabric, and she took the book apart and made me this vest. It's like Dolly Parton's coat of many colors, and or Joseph's coat,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a very same thing. And I still have it to this day. I use it as a prop sometimes when I'm speaking. But I wore that to school proudly, and the kids would just tease me unmercifully because it wasn't bought at the grocery or at the regular department store. It didn't have the Levi's, button on it, or Jordache, or whatever. It was pre-Jordache, but um, if anybody even remembers Jordache now.
Oh
But
yeah.
yeah. So I had to get out of that shyness if I was going to be successful,
Hmm.
and so I had to. I started, you know, talking, and I did it. I didn't go to any, Toastmasters or anything like that. I just started getting and putting myself out there, and knowing that God was in control of my life, and He gives me that strength to speak in front of people. I'm still. I don't know if you ever noticed. I mean, I make a big deal at these meetings that we go to, Russ, but I'm still really shy when it comes to being out there. I break out of that for those groups, and when I get to speak in front of people. Um, but the bringing the public in, or into your business, and you need those people. You need people to support you in those areas. You can't just rely on your friends, because when we opened the restaurant, all our friends said, "Oh yeah, we'll come," and it was a ghost town because nobody knew who we were. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you can't rely on your friends that are going to come in once every 6 months. So getting out there and essentially making new friends, and spreading. I like to say, as a Christian, people should see something different in you without even saying, or without even bringing it up. You shouldn't have to bring up, "Well, I'm a Christian." You should just show it in your actions and what you do. And that's God's given me that ability to
Yes.
That's so
took me out of that
it's so
shell.
important to be able to live that. And as we get close to winding down here, I'll remind everybody, Mike Adams of Adams Rib Smokehouse and Bowen Vine, and what's the name of the deli?
It's right here, Cozy's New York Deli.
Cozy's New
It's
York Deli. I tell you, it's just fabulous stuff. Let me ask you one question, because it's not a sin to love the food that you cook. What's your favorite of all the things that you cook at the deli, at Bowen Vine, at the Smokehouse? What does Mike Adams like to eat?
you know really, and I don't do steaks, but my absolute favorite uh, meal is a thick cut ribeye and some Brussels sprouts or broccoli. I know I'm one of those broccoli lovers. I like the greens,
Me
but
too.
but but the thick cut ribeye and when I was doing the radio show, and I haven't taught classes in a while, but I'd love to start teaching classes again. Out here on my farm is where I'd love to do it because I've got a whole kitchen I'm setting up here in the picnic shelter. But you take that ribeye, you season it, just basic salt, pepper, garlic, and then you put it on. I have like 15 Traegers and other pits around here, but you take that and you stick it in that smoker on low, like 200, and then smoke that thing for about 45 minutes. Fire up your gas grill or something with a cast iron griddle on it, or a cast iron pan. Put a little pat of butter in there, let that melt, and then sit that ribeye, pull it from the smoke, set it on there at 600 degrees, so it just sizzles in that butter. Maybe a minute and a half. Flip it over, minute and a half on the other side. You are going to have the most incredible ribeye, or as I like to call them, Spencer steaks, because that's where I grew up. It was called a Spencer steak, and but it's essentially a ribeye, but thick cut. And then I'm telling you what, it's going to be medium rare. It's going to be smoky. It's going to be flavorful. It's going to have that nice crust. That is my absolute favorite thing to cook. Even though I love my beef ribs, I love my pork ribs, I love my tri-tip. Tri-tip is something that wasn't available here in Oregon before I moved here, and I started pushing it. And that was over 20 years ago.
You got to love all that stuff. And I love ribs. I love steak. But you know what? We're out of time for today, Mike. Just tell everybody real quickly, how do they get in touch with you? Because I know people are going to want to get in touch with you. How do they get in touch with Mike?
Well, if they want to get in touch with me personally, Grilling with Mike Adams. You can go to my Facebook page, or you can go email me at grillingwithmikeadams@gmail.com. And grill in, not ing, grill in with Mike Adams. And then, you can, or you can email Adams Rib and the info. There's an info at adamsribsmokehouse.com.
Perfect. And, it just happened to be ticking along the bottom, the Grilling with Mike Adams. So everybody, it's right there. It's in the show notes, and it's also in the comments today. And so, Mike, appreciate you letting everybody know that as well. People on the radio are going to want to hear this, or people that are listening to the podcast also want to get that information. So thanks so much for being here. We're going to say goodbye for today, but hang tight. We'll talk to you in just a moment here after we say goodbye.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you for having me.
You bet. Wow.
Well, I know my wife and I we're ribeye people too. And broccoli, the Brussels sprouts sounds great. That recipe, wow. Okay, we're ready to go.
I am with you. I am a broccoli guy too. And I'm a meat, potatoes, and vegetables. I love everything. I was actually Mama's dream come true, because I would eat anything she put in front of me. And so, yeah, pretty much a Mama's dream come true. But anyway, enough about me.
Show, and my mouth is watering. I think we should all meet down at the Smokehouse.
Oh my goodness, for sure, for sure. Don't forget, we're here every Monday, not only live on social media at 9 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time, but also we are on KWIL 790, broadcasting at 6 p.m. every Monday as well. And we're happy that you joined us today. Have an amazing week. And until we see you next Monday, have a great life and enjoy
the experience.
Thank you for tuning in to The Experience Local with Russ and Scott. Listen to the program on Spotify or wherever you listen to fine podcasts. Join in every Monday live at 9 a.m. Pacific on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. Catch the audio on KWIL 790 AM, Monday evenings at 6 p.m. We look forward to seeing you next time on The Experience Local with Russ and Scott.